Welcome, everyone, to this very special Sol Speaker Series event for Project Earth Day. In case you just joined us, I'm Fleet Captain Barb Barton, and this is my Deputy Director for Sciences, Captain Pam Kingsley. One of my favorite lines from any Star Trek movie is Scotty saying with exuberance, "Admiral, there be whales here." I just love it. I just absolutely love that part.
Hey, Admiral, there be wheels here. Possibly slightly worse accent than Scotty there. But in Star Trek 4, Kirk and Spock and the rest of the crew have to go back to the past to rescue two humpback whales to save the planet Earth. So why did they choose humpback whales over the other whales? Well, as noted in the film, humpback whales were decimated by commercial whaling, almost to the point of extinction, before finally they were protected in the mid 1960s from most whaling. And the good news is today, humpback whales have made a tremendous comeback, increasing in numbers in many areas of the world, and some people even credit the voyage home with helping with that effort.
For sure. And we are very honored to introduce our special guest today. To me, he's a true conservation hero. Mark Palmer is the Associate Director of Earth Island Institute's International Marine Mammal Project, focusing on protecting whales and dolphins. While he was a student at UC Berkeley, he founded and led the Endangered Species Committee of California. He joined the staff of Earth Island back in 1995, spearheading efforts in Congress and federal court to protect and maintain the integrity of the Dolphin Safe label for tuna, which protects the lives of 90,000 plus dolphins annually. He helped block a major industrial salt operation in Mexico's San Ignacio Lagoon, a birthing ground for gray whales and part of the El Vizcaino Wildlife Refuge, the largest in Latin America. Mark has worked since 2004 on the Save Japan Dolphins campaign, which has seen worldwide attention to the problem of dolphin slaughters in Japan. He was a consultant for the Academy Award-winning documentary The Cove and appears in the Animal Planet series Blood Dolphins. And if that isn't enough, Mark coordinated Russian and international efforts to convince the Russian government to release 97 orcas and beluga whales that were held in the notorious whale jail back to their home waters instead of selling them to aquariums in China. So please give a welcome to our Sol Speaker of the Day, Mark Palmer. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mark.
Looking
Happy
forward to
Project Earth Day.
Yes, happy Project Earth Day.
We are very, very pleased to welcome you here, and we are really looking forward to what you have to share with us today.
Great. Are we ready for launching? Absolutely. Good work, everybody. So why humpback whales for Star Trek 4? We're going to start with a little commercial break here while I talk about Earth Island Institute and the International Marine Mammal Project and a bit about me. Earth Island Institute was founded by David Brower. He was the executive director of the Sierra Club. He was the first executive director, actually, of the Sierra Club back in the 1950s. He went on to form the Friends of the Earth and the League of Conservation Voters. He then went on to found Earth Island Institute, and it's set up very interesting. It's a umbrella organization which provides all the bureaucratic sorts of things that you need for setting up a nonprofit organization. They maintain the board of directors. They maintain our relations with IRS and our filings with the IRS. They do a variety of different things that organizations need to do, so that if somebody comes forward with the idea, a great idea for the environment, they can join Earth Island Institute with their little project and not have to set up their own bureaucracy and nonprofit organization, which takes a great deal of time and effort. The International Marine Mammal Project, which I work with, is just one of about 80 projects that are now at Earth Island. We're one of the oldest, however. We were formed in 1982 when Earth Island was first set up. And we've done a variety of different things. You may have, you noticed that there's dolphin safe labels on tuna today, for example. about in 1990. We formed that program of dolphin safe tuna with the tuna industry and have been working with them for a number of years. We've got a little over 800 different tuna companies around the world that are part of our dolphin safe program, where they agree to fish in a way that doesn't harm dolphins. And we've seen a tremendous decline in dolphin deaths because of that. In the tuna industry, we're also working. It was mentioned the Cove documentary, which was about our work in Japan to protect dolphins there. We're also the organization that took Keiko, the orca star of the movie Free Willy. He was in an aquarium in Mexico when the film Free Willy was filmed, and we brought him up to an aquarium in Oregon, rehabilitated him, and then released him back to the wild in Iceland, the first captive orca that's ever been released back into the wild. A little bit about me. I joined Earth Island, as mentioned, in 1995, working on a variety of issues for them. But I should also mention that I am a Star Trek fan. Perhaps I don't have a uniform, I'm afraid. I did have my little T-shirt, which I'll show you a little later when we get back to me. But I am happy to say that I saw the first episode, The Man Trap, when it came out back in 1964. And I am the proud possessor of all the movies and all the episodes on DVD. Next slide, please. So Star Trek 4, let's talk a little bit about Star Trek 4. And it's already been noted, and since all of you have seen it about 4,500 times, it's probably not necessary for me to go through it in any detail. Next scene, please. So here we have one of the penultimate scenes. You can see the beautiful actress Catherine Hicks, who I actually got a chance to meet shortly after the film came out in San Diego. And then you have two people standing next to her who are wearing Darth Vader helmets. I don't know what that's all about. And in the corner, there's William Shatner as Mr. Captain James T. Kirk, I should say. And the two whales behind them. This was shot in the Monterey Bay Aquarium. And those two whales are about 3 feet long. They're models. They're very detailed models, but they're pretty tiny. And of course, they're using a green screen with the tank there in the back for the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Next slide, please. So why not other whales for Star Trek 4? Now we know Leonard Nimoy from his discussion. As you know, he directed Star Trek 4, and it was pretty much his idea. At that time, as today, there is a very strong movement to protect whales, to stop commercial whaling. And so he picked up the theme and thought about, well, what about if the whales are there to save the humans? And came up with the whole plot for Star Trek 4. But why humpback whales? Why would they choose the humpback whale? Because there are other spiffy whales like the orcas. Very intelligent. We know a lot about them now. And there's also the sperm whale, which has the largest brain of any whale on Earth. Why not a sperm whale? Next slide, please. Or a blue whale. I really like this picture. It was taken from the air in Monterey Bay. Again, a little south of me in the coast of California. Blue whales are the largest animal on Earth. Why not have a blue whale save the Earth rather than a humpback whale? Next slide, please. I think I know why. And so we'll go through this deduction for you. This is a humpback whale underwater. Beautiful shot. You can see it's a very large baleen whale. That is, they don't have teeth. They have baleen plates from the top of their mouth, which is how they sort of sieve their food out of taking big gulps of water full of small fish like sardines or krill, little shrimp-like animals that appear in huge abundance in the ocean during the summers especially. He's got those big, long paddle-like flippers there in front. These are pretty amazing in their own right. They're about 8 feet long and quite huge. The whales weigh in at maybe 20 to 40 tons. They can get up to 40, maybe 50 feet long. So they're not the biggest of whales, but they are large. But next slide, let's look at why they do. And I think the number one reason why they chose the humpback whale is because humpback whales sing very sophisticated songs. Next slide. What do I mean by singing? Okay, from a biological standpoint, animal singing is when they do a series of notes. Think of a bird song, for example, and then they repeat the very same notes over and over again. That is considered singing. So a bird will go tweet, 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 and then it'll go tweet, 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 and go on and on and on like that until it drives you crazy. The humpback whale songs, in contrast to the bird songs, are extremely elaborate. They can go for 20 to 40 minutes or more at a time as they sit there singing, and then they will repeat note for note exactly that song. It's pretty amazing sort of interesting behavior, and only the male humpback whales sing, as we'll talk about a little bit. Next slide. Now, there are other whales that sing too, such as gray whales grunt, and you've got bowhead whales in the Arctic who have short little songs that are similar to humpbacks. So if you could play the little thing, let's listen to a humpback. Might want to turn up the volume a bit on it, but it's almost over. The whale songs are really beautiful, and if you can, sometime you might look up some special songs. You can stop now and go on to the next slide. Now, the question, why do humpback whales sing? And the answer is, we don't know. There's a lot of speculation about it. A lot of work has been put into it. Again, it's the males that mostly do the singing, and they do it mostly on the mating grounds. So it's likely that it's some kind of mating display, as we say, just like birds. They're letting the females know, the males are letting the females know where they are, and they're warning off other males. The songs evolve over time. It's pretty amazing. There will be a different song each season that can be quite different from the last time around. And the songs spread throughout entire populations of whales. So you get whales in Hawaii and whales off in Tonga and whales off in along the California coast, down the Channel Islands, and they're all singing a very similar song that is kind of the popular hit of the summer, so to speak, for those animals. The humpback whale songs can stretch for 8 octaves, and I am not a musical person, so I have no idea what that means, except that the 8 octaves is a really tremendous range for a singer to have. Most human singers can't quite make that. Next slide, please. So why is singing by the humpback whales important to Star Trek IV? And the penultimate reason, I think, is communication. The humpback whales have these very elaborate songs. They're very dramatic songs, as were used in the movie, as you know, as the climactic part where they're waiting for the humpback whales that they've taken from the past and released them into the oceans, and they're waiting for them to sing. Singing, I should say, is not the same as language. We don't know what kind of information is being conveyed, if any, in the songs of whales. We're trying to parse that out. But you can, if you're clever, as is Leonard Nimoy and his writers, you can use it as some kind of form of communication. And it's especially effective for aliens who are flying around in giant garbage cans, and you want to communicate with them through the humpback whales. Next slide. Reason number 2. Back in 1986, when the movie was being made, Star Trek IV, we knew a lot about humpbacks compared to other whales. They'd been studied intensively in various places, particularly Hawaii, where, as you know, humpbacks are still very famous for coming there every spring. It's a breeding ground, and it's also a birthing ground for the females. So we knew a lot about it. Today, we know a lot about more about other whale species. But back then in 1986, not so much. We knew about some species. There's the gray whale, but again, gray whales don't sing. They're kind of a mundane whale, and they're not as much fun as the humpback whales, and they certainly don't have the incredible singing range. Now, we also knew what the humpback whales look like. We had very good underwater photography by that time in 1986, and we could see what the animal looks like underwater. And also we knew some of their behavior underwater, how they act when they're in the water. And that made it easier to make the prop whales, which were used for the movie. Most of the humpback whales you see in Star Trek IV are not real humpback whales until towards the very end of the film. Okay, next. Because of the improvements in photography, artist Peter Fulkins was able to design the 2 robot whales. These whales that you see there behind Mr. Spock are about 3 foot long. They're made out of rubber, and that was molded and then painted very accurately by Peter. And he also had a little mechanism inside the whale so they could move their flippers up and down. It's very awkward compared to what real humpback whales look like when they're swimming around underwater. But it's still pretty amazing that he was able to get and make them look as real as they look. Next slide, please. There were other parts of the whale that were manufactured, some at full scale. There was just the side of the head, only the left side of the head of the humpback, and the big flipper coming out, which is what Mr. Spock stood upon as he was doing the mind meld in the aquarium. Those pictures, by the way, the footage of Spock in the water with the big whale, with the 2 whales that were shown in the aquarium and later released underwater. These were all filmed in a swimming pool in the East Bay of California. And then again, the Monterey Bay Aquarium was used for the so-called Sausalito Whale Museum. There is no whale museum in Sausalito. I was working with an organization in Oakland called the Whale Center, where we would get periodically a phone call from somebody saying, hey, I want to go to Sausalito and see the whales in the aquarium. Can you tell me where that is? And we have to gently tell him that the whales in Star Trek IV were not real, that the Monterey Aquarium down in Monterey was what stood in for the so-called Sausalito Whale Center, et cetera, but the place doesn't exist. The power of movies, that people believe that a aquarium with whales actually existed after watching the film. Now, at the climactic season of Star Trek IV, we have the humpbacks. They've saved the Earth, and the Star Trek gang is going swimming. Not in San Francisco Bay, I'm afraid. They were swimming again in a swimming pool to make it look as if they were out in San Francisco Bay. But there are some live wild humpback whales that were then filmed for that, including some breaching humpback whales. Breaching means when they jump clear of the ocean. But those films were not done in San Francisco Bay. They were done in Hawaii by Bob Talbot, by the way, who is an outstanding whale photographer. Next slide. And one additional point, humpback whales are very acrobatic. They do jump. I photographed this female jumping in Monterey Bay, and this one particular one jumped 14 times, so she gave me a couple of different times to catch her in midair as she's crashing up. A little bit about this photo of what you're seeing. This is the belly of the humpback whale. They tend to leap up and then fall back on their backs when they're breaching out of the water. You can see the throat pleats along the throat there, and its two big dorsal fins. Big animal coming out of the water. Next slide, please. So that pretty much sums up my thinking on why a humpback whale was chosen as opposed to other whale species, with a little bits of hints and pieces from various things. I've seen the actual whale molds that were made for those humpback whales that are 3 feet long. And that was a lot of fun. I spent some time sharing an office with Peter Folkens for a few months once, and it was fun seeing some of the things he was working on. He's a very good artist, and Peter Folkens also has a great book out about how to spot whales around the world, what their characteristics are, what they look like, illustrated by his very fine paintings. So if you're interested in going out and going on a whale watch trip, or just learning more about whales and dolphins, I recommend Peter Folkens' book, Folkens, and it's a guide to the world's whales, I think is the title. It's in that range of titles. We've got, I'm a little short of time. I didn't realize I'd be able to scoot through this so quickly. Why don't you go back to me, if we can. There I am. And I did want to show off my special shirt I wore today, which is, of course, reversed for you people, but it's Kirk and Spock, the logical choice for 24. So unfortunately, that ticket did not do terribly well.
Wonderful.
And I'm happy to answer any and all questions.
Yeah, I'm looking through the comments.
There haven't been any questions yet, but there have been people who have been talking about going to look at whales and going whale watching on the Sanguinay River and the Saint Laurent River, and somewhere else in Quebec as well.
Oh, yeah.
Saguenay River from the Mini House in the St. Laurent River. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good area up there in the on the coast during the summer. You get a lot of whales coming into that possible things. Yeah, northern bottlenose whales, fin whales, the right way. That's not a right fin. That should be a comma between right and fin. Those are two different whales, the right whale and the fin whale. Humpbacks, blue, minke whales, pilot whales, orcas, of course, beluga whales, even sperm whales, which are hard to see because they tend to be in very deep water offshore, and the Atlantic white-sided and the white-beaked dolphins.
Here's a very interesting question. It says, while swimming in NFLD, yeah, there it is up on the screen, worried about the whales rolling on the Kaplan would detect me with their sonar. From the sonar signature, I imagine they would detect a cooked walrus and would want to eat me. The locals said I was being irrational and whales wouldn't eat me. What do you think?
Generally speaking, whales don't eat people at all. It's a little surprising to some people. There has never been a report of an attack on people by orcas in the wild. We've had, unfortunately, at least 4 people killed by captive orcas, and that goes into a whole issue about whether or not orcas should be kept in captivity, I recommend the film documentary Blackfish, which talks about the problems of keeping orcas in captivity in great detail. And we're my organization, the International Marine Mammal Project, is working with a number of other organizations to see if we can phase out captivity. And we've made a lot of progress around the world. There are only 18 orcas left in captivity in North America. Unfortunately, part of that is due to them dying off. But SeaWorld has stated SeaWorld has all 18 of those orcas, and they've said they won't breed them or bring in new orcas. So as those 18 orcas die off, that will be the last generation of orcas in the SeaWorld parks, as far as SeaWorld is saying. And that will bring the era in North America to an end when orcas were kept in captivity. I think future generations will look back at us and say, why on earth did you put an animal like an orca in a small tank like that? And we did. What can I say?
What do you see as the greatest threat to the whales in general right now as it relates to climate change? Global warming, I prefer to call it.
Yeah, global warming is certainly a major issue when it comes to whales, and we're seeing the effects. We're seeing whales moving further north than they normally do. They're probably following the food fish as they mill around. Yeah, global warming is something we're seeing some die-offs of gray whales along the coast of California and Canada and Oregon and Washington. And the thought is that it may be connected to global warming effects on their food. Gray whales are bottom feeders. They go up to the Arctic during the summer, and they don't feed much during the rest of the year. They're on migration down to Baja, Mexico, where they give birth to their young and also do the breeding. And then they go back once the summer comes in and the ice melts back. And then they go into the Arctic Ocean area and they'll feed on the bottom there for the summer. But it's felt that some of the animals that have been seen on shore have been killed from starvation. They basically are skinny, they don't look very well, and it's thought that they probably have been unable to get enough food, which is why they died along the migration route. So yeah, global warming can be effective. I'm very concerned about the toxic load. There's a lot of forever chemicals, including things like mercury, which is really the most serious poison on Earth next to plutonium. And also a lot of pesticides and other types of compounds. We call them forever chemicals because they don't break down in the wild very fast. And as such, we still have a lot of DDT has been banned in the United States since the 1970s, and but we still have residues of DDT showing up off the coast and in species such as ospreys and other animals and a lot of the whales. So I'm very concerned about what effects those toxins are having. In the case of the orcas in the Pacific Northwest, the population there is considered endangered because of very low numbers. And one of the problems that they've encountered is that a lack of fish. They depend upon salmon to feed upon, and a lot of the salmon streams have been cut off by damming. They've been damaged because of logging, and as a result, the salmon populations are way, way down. And the whales there have to use their blubber in order to sustain themselves, and that allows a big shock of chemicals which are embedded in the blubber over time to suddenly enter the bloodstream and presumably can cause toxic reaction amongst the orcas there. So that's another example of where global warming is getting worse because, of course, salmon require very cold water to breed in. And so if we've got warm waters up off the coast of in the streams of Washington and Oregon and California where the salmon breed, you're going to lose some of the salmon because of that global heating.
It's a cascading effect, isn't it?
Yeah, and so you've got toxics and a lack of food. There's a variety of bad things that happen when you warm up the oceans.
We have a question from Monica. What are ways that we can get involved in being part of the solution for cetacean conservation?
My favorite topic. There's a lot of things you can do. I do recommend that you look online at the various different whale organizations. There's a variety of different groups, including, of course, the International Marine Mammal Project, that are working on these kinds of issues. They have all kinds of information for you for going up on their websites. They do need donations to function in our society. They're nonprofit organizations, and they depend upon you to provide funding for them. So that's one thing you can do, is to join an organization and support it. And at the same time, those organizations will provide you with information on hot topics and things you can do. We have a variety of petitions for some of our projects that are on our website that you can sign. We also encourage people to contact their members of the legislature. Sometimes we will target specific people. For example, we've just put out a letter signed by 28 organizations, national organizations, including a number from Canada, to Canada's Ministry of Environment. There are 31 beluga whales in an aquarium in Niagara Falls. It's called Marineland in Canada. And Canada passed a bill a couple of years ago, that banned keeping cetaceans in captivity. Marineland is actually, they're dividing up the property. They're going to close down the marine mammal place. But the question is, what do you do with the 31 beluga whales? They're in captivity and in small tanks in the tank. They could go to another aquarium. That's quite possible. But the ideal solution, we think, for those animals that are in captivity is to put them into seaside sanctuaries. These would be large netted areas, like an entire cove or an entire inland part of the ocean where it's protected, that you put nets around. The animals won't perform anymore. They won't have to do the dumb tricks, which they have to do 24/7 now, in terms of the people who come in day after day. They have to do the same trick over and over again. And these are very, very intelligent animals. That's a good prospect for driving them nuts, is to make them do the same thing over and over again. As well as the confines of the tank itself, the inability to exercise very well. So tanks are not very good, but a seaside sanctuary where the animals would be protected and they'd be fed. They would have veterinary care, but they wouldn't have to, but they could just continue to be beluga whales. So we sent a letter with 28 groups to that, and we're going to be encouraging the public to get in touch with the Ministry of Environment in Canada to see if we can't get the 31 belugas into some kind of a seaside sanctuary. There is a couple that are on tap to be opened very soon, or have been opened, and it might work out for us to provide them with that help. But that's just one example of the kinds of things that groups are doing. The groups are active at the International Whaling Commission to stop the killing of whales, which still goes on by Norway, Iceland, and Japan. So there's a lot of organizations working to end that kind of commercial whaling and stop it from happening. We've been successful in stopping commercial whaling from most nations of the world over the last 50 years. And some of us are still working on it. When I started working in the 1970s on these issues, the International Whaling Commission and commercial whaling was big news. And we managed to cut it back substantially, but there's still a few holdouts. So we're working on ending commercial whaling. But commercial whaling is not the threat to populations that it was before. And as I mentioned, many populations of humpback whales, as well as other species, the gray whale has made a big comeback. We see a lot of blue whales now in the Western Pacific where we didn't see many before in the past. We're seeing some other species come. Not all whales that were decimated during the period of commercial whaling have shown much growth in population. So there's still some populations we're concerned about. But generally speaking, a lot of the whales are recovering from commercial whaling, and then you come up against some of these other issues. Entanglement and fishing gear is a major source of problem for especially smaller cetaceans around the world. With our Dolphin Safe project for tuna companies, we're trying to stop that kind of killing of dolphins and whales in tuna nets. And we've been very active in attempts to restrict the use of gill nets, for example, which are very destructive to marine mammals, as well as a variety of other species, sharks and other marine life, sea turtles. And so there's a lot that needs to be done, but your best bet is to plug into some of the organizations that are doing this kind of work on a regular basis, and as well as news articles and other information to inform yourself on what's going on.
It looks like we have another question for you regarding the whale and dolphin watching cruises. Do they have a negative impact on the species? And are there ways that we can minimize that impact? And they're pointing out noise pollution and harassment as a problem.
And that's true. There are protocols for whale watching cruises and captains and rules of the road, if you will, to avoid disturbing whales when you're out there whale watching. The whales are certainly aware that you're there with the motor noise that goes to them. They're very aware of the boats around them. In many cases, cetaceans ignore the sounds and ignore them. They're used to them. In some cases, we have actually whales approaching boats. We call these friendly whales, friendly whales. And it's particularly spectacular down in Baja, where the gray whales come in. And in the last few years, we've seen this phenomena of female gray whales coming up to boats, and these are small pangas boats. They're about the size of Boston whalers, so they're maybe 20 feet long and have maybe 8 to 10 people on board. And the gray whale will come right up to the boat, stick its nose out of the water, and soliciting people petting them, essentially. And you can put your fingers in your mouth, and you can stroke their baleen. The females will often bring their young, so that the young are learning to approach the little boats and stuff like that. So it's quite a change from the attitude of the whalers who decimated gray whales in those same waters back in the 1890s. And so now they've made a good comeback from those, and we've got good population numbers. There have been, as I mentioned, some problems with regard to likely their food supply due to global warming, but generally the gray whales are doing well, and we see this friendly behavior. So the standards for whale watching boats are fairly strict in the United States. You need to, if you are in the water in a boat and you see a whale, you want to keep 100 yards away from it as best you can. You don't want to alter your speeds. You don't want to get in front of the whales. So there's a variety of different steps that captains are supposed to take in order to avoid harassment of the animals. There are instances where I think these whale watching cruises are problematic. There's a lot of concern for the orcas, for example, in Washington state, off the coast there, because of the number of whale watch boats. They're very popular, and there's some concern that it may interfere with their feeding during the day if they're out there looking for salmon and all of a sudden a bunch of whale watch boats come around. So there is some concerns up there, and they've gradually cut back the places where you can approach the orcas and try to extend the distance so that you're not crowding that orca population. So it can be detrimental, but with restrictions, it's pretty good. And it's very valuable, of course, to bring people out to see whales front and center and enjoy them and learn about them and want to become their protectors.
Mm-hmm. Want to take the next question, Pam?
Yes, so this question from Yolanda. Was there a noticeable rise in migratory issues in the Pacific for the various cetacean species due to the radiation runoff as it moved from Japan towards North America after the Fukushima reactor meltdown and the subsequent radiation spill into the ocean?
Mm-hmm. Not that we know of. Again, it's one of those things. There was some studies of salmon, for example, out of Stanford University, which showed that salmon on the coast of California showed a certain increased level of radiation, but it was relatively minor. It's considered, a little bit higher than background radiation for those species. What happened to the whales is hard to say. But it doesn't appear to have affected them as far as we know. It by the time it got to the California coast, it was pretty dispersed. But again, radiation, like a lot of these kinds of chemicals, can be magnified in the biological system. You have a little fish who eats something with radiation in it. That fish and all the other little fish that have a little bit of radiation get eaten by a bigger fish, and then a bigger fish comes along and eats all those fish, and the radiation levels increase right up the food chain. And unfortunately, a lot of the whales, and especially the dolphins and orcas, are at the top of the food chain, so they tend to get the highest concentration, both of toxic materials like DDT and PCBs, but also things like radiation and mercury as well. So it's a difficult issue overall. They are, of course, dumping additional radiated water from the Fukushima disaster, which was a terrible, terrible nuclear disaster, as I think everybody knows. And because of that, the nukes melting down, you've got contaminated water that is filling various tanks on the area, and they're starting to dump some of that contaminated water into the ocean. It's still radioactive. What effects it's going to have? We have been actually testing dolphin meat for radiation. So far, we've only seen some background radiation. We haven't seen any spikes in dolphins having huge amounts of radiation, but it does take time for radiation to move through the food chain. So we'll have to see what happens over the next few years.
I had a question for you. I've heard rumblings of this through different sources, but what are your thoughts about offshore wind turbines and their effects on whales?
Well, that's a difficult debate. There have been a number of whales that have washed up shore on the Atlantic coast where some new wind farm projects are going in. The National Marine Fisheries Service, which is the top agency for the United States, says there's no evidence that the wind turbines per se were causing problems for those whales. A lot of the whales showed signs of having been hit by ships, which is a very common way for these days, unfortunately, for whales to die. One of the benefits of the population increase is that we get more whales, but of course, there's more whales to be hit by boats and to be entangled in fishing gear. So it's a double-edged sword to allow these animals' populations to recover. As such, we don't think the wind farms are having that much of an effect, but they might have an effect, particularly as they build out. These are very large structures in the ocean. They're going to have guide wires. There is a certain amount of noise associated both with the construction and with the with working. The windmills do create sound which goes down through the ocean columns. So yeah, there are some potential problems that's kind of being drowned out a bit by the severity of the global warming crisis and people wanting to put them in. For some reason, Mr. Trump has a personal antipathy towards windmills, and so he actually has canceled a lot of the contracts for offshore wind and other sorts of steps he's taken to walk away from green sources of energy, and that's unfortunate. We need to get back on the road to replacing fossil fuels with things like wind energy. But at the same time, we need to figure out what the impact's going to be on the whales.
Mm-hmm.
Jane is asking, do you get out into the field with the whales you study?
No. I'm not a scientist. I do have a degree in zoology from UC Berkeley and did a couple of years graduate work. So I have the training of a biologist, but I'm not really a biologist. I'm an activist. So actually, I'm going whale watching on May 3rd in Monterey Bay. I'm going to look for some whales there and photograph some, but it's sort of a busman's holiday because I don't get out all that much to see the whales. My work is with a computer, and it's very little biology and a whole lot of politics. How do I keep stupid people from killing animals? It's not as easy as it sounds. And because of that, there's a great deal of work that needs to be done. Basically, people are killing whales because they make money, or they're putting them into captivity because they make money, or they're fishing and their gear happens to kill whales. So it's very complicated economic and political problems, dealing with Congress, which is very difficult to deal with these days, as you know, dealing with the California state legislature, dealing with the law. We've got lawsuits pending. We're suing a number of major companies for their plastic pollution, which causes harm to marine mammals. We're also looking at some other legal actions around some of the things that the new administration is doing that we think are very harmful, such as opening up marine national monuments in the Pacific Ocean to commercial fishing. These areas were set aside as monuments by other presidents, Mr. Obama mainly, and Mr. Biden and Mr. Bush. And now Mr. Trump is trying to come in and change that, and we're very much trying to resist those kinds of changes that we think are going to be destructive in the long run. Where was I with this? Oh, what do I do? Yeah, so I'm working with lawyers, I'm working with politicians, I'm working with industries. Like we have very good relations now with the tuna industry globally, and we help them out and they help us out by letting us know if there are violations going on of the Dolphin Safe label. So it's a continuing working with people and trying to change public attitudes in general, that in turn can be reflected by their elected officials and appointed officials who are supposed to be responsible for these animals.
And it's very much a long game. I mean, I remember when the Dolphin Safe tuna labeling came about, and I'm sure as you look back on your career, that in that time period, you probably couldn't imagine where you can sit here and say we have a good working relationship and we help each other out. It takes a long time for these changes to occur. And so we have to keep, be persistent and just keep speaking out for those other beings. We had another question here. Can you share about the ways in which whales might actually help fight climate change? And it says whale poop and whale sink.
Right. Exactly. Whales in very recent years, we're talking about last 5 or 10 years, a lot of the studies on whales have looked at their impact on their environment. And it's thought that whales are very important in the what we call the sequestering of carbon, that is, removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and from the surrounding ocean waters, and locking it up into other sorts of compounds so that it isn't contributing to global warming. So whales tend to feed at the surface. These, we're talking about the big whales, including animals like sperm whales. Well, not so much sperm whales. They feed at deep depth, but then they come up to the surface and they chew up their squids. The so they excuse me, blue whales, humpback whales. They're feeding, and they're feeding in the top level of the ocean usually, which is where the fish and the krill are concentrated. But then when they dive down, they actually poop at depth, down deeper in the water. So what this causes, according to scientists, is a mixing of the things. So you have all the nutrients and things that have been accumulated, the primary productivity, which is the production of using sunlight and CO2 to produce sugars and other and proteins and things, which is done by the green algae that's in the top, and diatoms and other sorts of very small animals. They in turn are eaten by the large animals, and eventually the whales come along and they scoop up a lot of the krill, as I said, and small fish. But then when they defecate, they go down. They're diving down 200, 300, maybe 400 feet, and they'll do their thing. So this helps fertilize the entire water column. And again, you're taking the carbon dioxide, which has been captured by the green algae, and you're distributing it down deep into the ocean depths so that the results is the material is available for incorporation by other types of fish. The other is the whale fall phenomena, where when a whale dies at sea, they usually don't wash up on shore. They usually sink. And as a result, you have these whales lying on the bottom, and there's a variety of different organisms that benefit from that, worms and crabs and all kinds of animals on the ocean floor benefit from that. And again, all that carbon that is in the whale, instead of rotting and going back up into the atmosphere on the surface, it goes down to the bottom. And it's felt that the whale fall, as it's called, the whales falling down through the ocean down to the bottom, is a major source of sequestering carbon dioxide again into the ocean, where it is incorporated into the soils and other things down at the bottom of the ocean, instead of leaking out into the atmosphere. So these are ways, by saving the whales, we're going to help reduce global warming. It's not enough, obviously, to solve the entire problem. The entire problem is something we need to solve ourselves, but the whales can help, and the more whales, the better.
I had two questions on a similar theme. Have there been any advancements in protecting cetaceans from military active radar issues that cropped up in the late 90s and early 2000s? And then another question asking if whales jump away from the sound to dangerous areas, causing beaches to escape the noise or pressures. And just to give some background to this for people who don't know, there were concerns about when military were using sonar, it was interfering with the whales' echolocation, and meaning that they were getting lost, they were going where they shouldn't have been, and that it was leading to some beachings.
Exactly. These sounds that the Navy can make with low frequency active sonar called LFA sonar, and mid frequency sonar, which they use, are extremely loud. They are virtually louder than anything else that you hear in the ocean, with the possible exception of lightning. A lightning strike on the ocean creates a really huge sound. These things can be very loud. We think that it can do damage to these animals because they have very sensitive hearing. They don't really have external ears, of course, because they want to be streamlined in their swimming, but they do hear with their ear bones through the skull and through the skin, and they use active sonar. Many of the whales, especially the toothed whales, use their own sonar in order to orient themselves, find mates, and find their food. So they're acoustic animals because sound travels very easily underwater, whereas light does not travel very well underwater. And so they can use their little active sonars. But if the Navy is nearby and they're sending out these huge blasts, and the problem was not so much of their using active sonar during warfare. That is a very difficult sort of thing for us to get a handle on. And we've seen the deaths of many dolphins, for example, in the Black Sea due to the Ukraine war with Russia. And again, it appears to be some of the explosions they're using and various other missiles and things that are causing some of the animals in the ocean to basically die, and we get them washed up on the shore. The active sonars then are very intense. And the question that came up was whether they need to test them and they need to train their people, their naval personnel, on how to use them. The upshot was a series of lawsuits and efforts to try to contain LFA and to avoid areas where marine mammals are common. And the Navy went along with some of that. There's still, unfortunately, a vast area that they can use these things in, the types of sonars, but a lot of the very sensitive areas, the coastal areas where whales and dolphins and other marine life are known to concentrate, are limited in terms of how much they can use LFA. And the mid-frequency sonars as well. But we have had several instances where they've gone through and do testing, and all of a sudden we see a lot of whales beaching themselves, and it's both. We're not quite sure of the mechanism. There is damage to their ear canals. One thought is that the whales, when they're at depth, are startled by the noise, and so they surface, and they surface too fast and get what effect is in the bends. They have carbon dioxide and nitrogen in their bloodstream, comes out of solution, and it causes severe pain and eventual death in the animals. So you find a lot of stranded animals after some of these uses of and training missions using the sonar. And it's still a big problem, as well as other noise impacts from offshore oil drilling. I mentioned the wind. The windmills certainly are going to make noise underwater, and we don't know what effect that will have on the whales. There's a lot of different questions out there and things that we're trying to get a handle on as researchers are looking at it and trying to figure out what's the best way to protect these animals.
And let's see, we had a question. What is your favorite kind of whale?
What is my favorite kind of whale? The sperm whale. I've always been fascinated by the sperm whale. I've never seen one in the wild except for a dead one. And so I'm kind of looking forward. And I've gone out. I used to run whale watching trips off the coast of California, so I don't know how many times I've been out on the ocean looking for whales, and I've seen all kinds of different wonderful whales, including humpbacks and gray whales and blue whales, fin whales, but I have never seen a live sperm whale. So that's sort of on my bucket list. I'd love to go to a place where you can swim with them. Actually, there are a few places where you can actually jump in the water with them, and they're relatively tame.
That would terrify me.
Yes.
I'm used
I
to
would
Great
love that.
Lakes.
I don't know
We
whether
don't
I'm going to
do
get to it, but it's something to look for. Anyway, they've got the biggest brains on Earth. They're the whale that was featured in Moby Dick. Moby Dick was a sperm whale. I just think they're really cool. They eat giant squids too. Yum. Calamari.
Well, I think that's covered all of our questions. Lots of thank yous. We really appreciate you taking time to be with us today and sharing. Even though you say you're not a biologist, you know a lot about whales. So I would call you a biologist in that way for sure. But thank you for all the work that you have done and all the work that you're continuing to do to protect the marine mammals. It's truly a very astounding career that you've had, and we appreciate you coming and talking as part of our Sol Speaker Series and our Project Earth Day celebration today.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an honor to be with you. Let's see if my arthritis will allow this to come through. There we go. Live long and prosper, everybody. I've enjoyed it. Have me come back again. Love to talk some more about whales and dolphins and Star Trek.
Yes, we will definitely do that. Thank you, Mark.